Alrighty, good morning. It is Friday, August 19th, 2022. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. It should be a pretty quick pre-market here since the levels down below us haven't changed. So just want to quickly look at yesterday here. Pretty choppy and balanced all day, all morning until there was a little bit of a breakout, an attempt to break out, and then it failed. So there are still some sexy things to just be aware of. Out of the open here, we had a clue right out of the open from the market internals being at extremes that it was a little bit of a bearish clue, and we could not get through the 200 here. So four tests of the 200 moving average, and then we failed. Tried a long here out of the orange power level, never broke by 2 points. And then I got my first fill up to the VWAP and all that, but it just never got any further. I think overall it went from 70 to 79 and then failed. So I got a 5 point and then that was it. And then got a little messy over here, but still could not get through the 200. And this was something key thing I was telling everybody in the room. Every time we tried to get through the critical moving averages, there was a rejection. So the expectation, especially at this point, was to be short down to this 63 half. This 64 I just put on this morning, but 63 half was the target. They bounced, I think, just a tick in front of it or two and started to come back up. And again, a lot of trouble off the OPL. So it kind of held the OPL, broke through it, came down below, and then held it again. Looked like we actually would continue to go lower. And then, like I said, it was pretty messy and choppy. So, of course, they brought it back above. And then I think the sexiest thing that happened here this morning, and we see this type of setup happen pretty often, they finally broke out through the two moving averages, stayed above the OPL, pulled back, and tagged the OPL to the tick. And this it's like every fucking day. Comes down, hits the level to the tick, and bounces off for whatever it was. I think just over a 20-point bounce, just in front of this major swing at 91 half, and failed at the end of the day. Actually, we'll get into that. But this right here, again, a golden confluence with the market internals, with our 3-minute chart, and with a level all lining up there for this trade to take place. And again, about a 20-point push. And there you go, sideways, right? Came all the way back. And then eventually went ahead and tried to break out and failed again. And not too much sexy stuff going on. Once they got up through the 200, they did ride it from the top end all the way up and then failed and came back below. And in the overnight session, you can see that they start riding the back end of the 200 here as things start to fail. So right now we're coming right back up to test that sucker, and we're coming into a little area here. If you zoom out and look, where we've got the low. In fact, we'll go up to a higher time frame, and we'll talk about this. So let me go up to the daily, and then we'll dial down and look at what the significance is of these three stack levels. So let me go up to the daily. The daily is starting to print what looks to be a nice bullish divergence. And so this is the problem with the current formation. Technically, if the market continues to drop, we could come all the way back to these lows at whatever it is. I think those are the 41.13 lows for this leg, and technically would still have maybe an argument. So this is not something I'm really using as weight for a trade, but it's something I want to watch. And if we start to get a major alignment, we're probably going to start to get another rotation. So that's what all I can see here on the daily. There was no bearish divergence off the major high we made at the beginning of the week, I believe. Yeah, at the beginning of the week here. So that tells me that we're probably going to come back up and retest this high we made at 43.27 half at some point. It could happen today with a bounce back up. It might take a few days or weeks, but to me that looks like it's a nice prime area to retest because we never really got a clear bearish reversal pattern up off that high. And typically when we make a major turn, we're getting a very clean bearish divergence or bullish divergence on the daily chart. So that tells me we're probably going to come retest it. Doesn't mean we have to, but based on what the signals are saying. So that's the daily. The 4-hour also has the same formation as the daily. The only thing is it's a little tighter, so we really can't go much past 42.08 here, and we would still have the argument. So right now, the daily and the 4 hour are not necessarily helping us to pinpoint the low, but they're telling us there might be in this pullback here, or maybe even where we are right now, there's starting to be a potential for that turn. So we're going to be watching that, monitoring it, and if things close the way they look, but the daily is out of question because this will be at the end of the day. But when this 4 hour closes, when our 60-minute gives us some more information of a clear bullish divergence off the low, that's probably when we're going to get some type of clue. So for now, it's just something we're monitoring, and it's just kind of an idea. Let's go down to the 60-minute and look at all these levels that we're going to want to deal with here this morning. So the significance over here is we've got the low of 2 days ago. We've got basically the low of yesterday, the green line, and the major eye level sitting all right there in a 3-point range from about 55 to 58. And it's just stacked because the eye level is right in between, and then we have the two major lows for the last 2 days. So that is that first potential resistance area as they try to bounce back up right now. And then from there, we've got a little pocket right here where we have the orange power level and this major swing low from yesterday sitting right here about 63 to 64. That would be the next pocket that would potentially be trouble for this bullish bounce right now. And then we're up into the 38% retracement here at 73, 74. So if you zoom out and you go back to the major high we made, which again does not have a very sexy daily bearish divergence right now, all the way down to the low of the overnight session, we get 74 here, this 38 retracement. The 50 and the 61 line up with all the other levels that are already on the chart. So I'm not going to leave those up. But that 38 is sitting there, and remember the caveat to the fib leg here is if we break lower, that level is going to have to shift, and we're going to have to redraw the fib to new lows and redraw that 38 retracement. But for now, if we hold this low and try to push, that would be potential resistance area, and then we're right into this little ledge here from the overnight session or the Globex, beginning of the Globex session there, and the 50% retracement right at 77. And here's the thing. You're probably thinking, dude, there's a freaking level every half a point. There's a level every 3 points. That's because there's a whole bunch of stuff right here with very relevant legs, or very relevant areas of support. And it just is what it is. A whole bunch of stuff inside of this chop here. And then if they push through 50% of yesterday, it's going to be right up to 85 has been a real move the last few weeks. We've come right into it. In fact, here in the overnight session, came right to 85 and then failed. And we've been getting a lot of this stuff. You can't see it on a 60-minute chart, but there was a lot of pushes and failures. In fact, here's one from just 2 days ago. We came down, came right into it and failed. So that's that 85. And then there's your close of yesterday, 88, or give a few ticks there. And then it's up to the high of yesterday at 95. So there's a whole lot of crap in there. It just is what it is. You could probably even make it even more complicated if you said, look, we've got our leg from the high of yesterday to the low of here. And they all pretty much line up here with very important areas. But we're not going to look at that. So any further through the previous daily high, we've got 06, which again has been acting really, really well. And then it's back up to the major high of the week, which basically is right into the major eye level. So that's what we see up above us here as potential spots of resistance if the bulls continue to push. And then if they break out to the upside, which again this morning we don't necessarily have a huge confluence. For the last few days, there hasn't been a major confluence that gave us a good clue for a direction. This morning it's basically the same thing here. What should I say? Yesterday we had a bunch of 4-hour and hourly bullish signals from all the lows we were making in the overnight session and the day before. So the expectation was at the open here, basically where you see my cursor down over here, was for a breakout to the upside, but they failed right off this major swing low. So look at this low back here from, I think that's Monday, where we had the major high, pulled back, and then bounced right from that level. Look at where we failed yesterday. We came right into it, and that's the level I put on the chart. So in the morning, we came right into it and failed, and then actually 2 times and then in the afternoon they tried to break out right there, and then it failed. So it was a little peak above through the level, and then the bears jumped right back in. So there wasn't enough strength off of the major lows to actually break out. And I warned you that every level above could potentially be trouble. So they did fail. And now, like I said, we do have the daily, we have the 4 hour showing the beginnings of what could be a bullish divergence, but we really need that 60-minute to actually, let me move forward here. We really need that 60-minute off of the major overnight low to also agree before it becomes a little bit, we can really pinpoint maybe a potential rotation area. So for now, I don't have a huge confluence. And even I think off the highs, let me just check. Yeah, off the highs, we don't have a strong bearish confluence. So it's kind of, let's see where the market takes things. And then once we start to get an alignment, that's probably where the rotation will happen. So let's go down to the 60-minute once more and just talk about the other levels. So if the bulls do start get ripping through all these potential resistance zones, and we get up through 24.5 and that high 27.5 from the high of the week, remember the major retracement is 58.5. That's the 61.8 retracement of the sell-off from the all-time high. So very, very important level. And remember that we're very skeptical of any type of major bullish breakout to come all the way back to all-time highs, because I think this is more so suckering in a bunch of bulls. A lot of people are probably thinking, oh, look, the market is recovering. And then they're going to go ahead and swat it back down and really rip any of those bulls' faces off as it pulls back. So my expectation is at some point at one of these levels, and notice that essentially the market's been coming up to each major and minor eye level and getting these pullbacks. At some point, we're going to get to one of these levels. We're going to get a pullback, and that's going to be the beginning of a major rotation back down. And right now, like I said, I would typically have a daily signal lining up there along with the weekly, which does have a signal. So I'm kind of waiting for that daily to give me a nice clear bearish signal to line up with the weekly, line up with, oh no, the monthly doesn't have it, and then have that 4 hour also all lining up for the rotation back down. So whenever that happens, that will be when we start to kind of prepare and consider a potential major pullback. But we don't have that now. So we don't have a potential signal for the bears. We don't have a strong potential signal for the bulls. So we'll just have to wait and see what they do here this morning. And I keep kind of going on little tangents here, but the breakout to the upside, we talked about the major retracement. Obviously, every major and minor eye level is going to be trouble as they continue to attempt to break out back up. On the flip side of things here, outside of all the previous daily garbage, outside of all the stuff to the upside, we have the major pullback and the same major retracement levels that have been on the chart all week. So those major retracements are still there. Potential support zones. You can see that this one has not, the 38 has not necessarily worked out as a strong support to the tick, but we do have the 50 and the 61.8 right below that. And again, all these levels down here have already been established, and in fact, some of them have been on the chart for, I think, for months, or maybe it's been a couple weeks now. So everything down below, same potential areas of support if the bears do regain strength off of this bounce and pull things lower. So that's basically what we have here for this morning. Again, coming back up into yesterday's price range, there's a lot of relevant levels and areas of potential resistance. So it could be a little messy in there, but then it'll be pretty straightforward if we get the breakout. So again, we're going to be waiting this morning for market internals to dictate some clues for a direction, because we don't have a major alignment this morning. So it's kind of like we'll take it as it comes. So have a great morning to those watching out on YouTube, and we're going to go ahead and prepare, at least get ready for the open here in just a few minutes. So have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday. So we'll see you then.